The big meeting room was full of angry voices. Aliens from different worlds sat around a huge table made of bright crystal. Their voices mixed together like a storm. Some clicked their teeth, others roared, and a few made singing sounds. All of them were mad at the humans. Commander Jake Morrison sat very still in his chair. He was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. Next to him, Lieutenant Colonel Katie Walsh looked at her computer screen. She was reading reports about enemy ships in space. The alien who spoke the loudest was Ambassador Zekthara. He came from a world called Valonia. His body looked like a big octopus with purple skin. His long arms moved in the air as he talked. "The humans must leave the Kepler system now," Zekthara said. His voice was deep and scary. "They have 3 days to get all their people out. If they do not leave, we will attack their cities from space." Other aliens nodded their heads. High Chancellor Vorth looked like a big walking crystal. Light moved through his body when he talked. "Yes, the humans must go. That system belongs to us now. We are stronger than them." Jake Morrison knew these. Aliens were part of something called the Tripartite Alliance. 3 big alien groups had joined together. They wanted to take human worlds away from Earth. They thought humans were weak and easy to beat. Katie Walsh whispered to Morrison, "Sir, our spy ships count 12,000 enemy vessels. They have big warships, small fighter ships, and everything in between. This is the biggest alien fleet anyone has ever seen." Morrison nodded but did not look worried. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in wars before. But this was different. This time the whole human race might be in danger. An alien with 4 eyes and blue fur stood up. This was General Clax from the Hegemony Worlds. "Humans are soft," he said with a laugh. "They talk too much and fight too little. They will run away like scared children." More aliens laughed. The sound filled the big room like thunder. They all thought humans were cowards. They had seen human ships before. Most human ships were built for trade or exploration. They were not made for war, but Morrison knew something the aliens did not know. Humans could be very dangerous when they were angry, and right now, humans were very angry. The meeting leader called for the human answer. Morrison stood up slowly. The room became quiet. All the aliens looked at him. Some had big eyes, some had small eyes, and some had no eyes at all. But they all watched the human commander. "The United Earth Defense Force has heard your demands," Morrison said. His voice was calm and strong. "We will send our answer in 2 days." Zekthara's purple arms moved faster. "What will you send, human? Your whole fleet? All your warships?" He made a sound like laughing. "We have counted your ships. You have maybe 200 vessels. We have 12,000. Morrison smiled just a little bit. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a wolf makes before it bites. "We will send 1 ship," Morrison said. The room exploded with noise. Aliens roared, clicked, buzzed, and sang all at the same time. They could not believe what they heard. 1 human ship against 12,000 alien ships? It was impossible. It was crazy. It was stupid. Zekthara hit the table with one of his big arms. "1 ship? You make jokes. Human. 1 ship cannot fight our great fleet. You will all die." Morrison kept smiling. 1 ship should be enough. The aliens laughed even harder now. They thought Morrison had lost his mind. Some of them fell off their chairs because they were laughing so hard. Even the crystal aliens made sounds like breaking glass, which meant they were very amused. Only 1 alien did not laugh. Ambassador Cretan from the peaceful Althari people sat quietly. She had large, dark eyes and pale skin. She watched Morrison carefully. Something in his face made her worried. The meeting ended with the aliens still laughing. They thought they had already won the war. As the humans walked out of the room, other aliens pointed at them and made jokes. They called humans weak and foolish. Outside the meeting room, Morrison turned on his secret communicator. It was a small device that the aliens could not hear. He spoke quietly into it. "Control, this is Morrison. Send a message to Admiral Carter on Earth. Tell her to wake up the Pennsylvania. Katie Walsh looked at her commander. Sir, are you sure about this? The Pennsylvania's been sleeping for a long time. Morrison nodded. It is time, Katie. These aliens think they know us. They have seen our trade ships and exploration vessels. They think we are weak because we prefer to talk instead of fight. He looked up at the stars through a big window. Somewhere out there, 12,000 enemy ships were waiting. They thought they would have an easy victory. They are about to learn something new about humans, Morrison said. They are about to learn that we do not build battleships. We build something much worse. Katie Walsh understood. She had heard stories about ships like the Pennsylvania. They were built during the old wars when humans fought each other. But those wars ended long ago. Most people had forgotten about the terrible weapons humans could make. The aliens were about to remember. As they walked to their ship, Morrison thought about the human colonies in the Kepler system. Families lived there. Children played in parks. People worked and laughed and loved each other. The aliens wanted to destroy all of that. That was their first mistake. Humans would do anything to protect their families. Their second mistake was thinking that one human ship could not hurt them. They would learn the truth soon enough. Deep under a mountain on Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter walked down a long, dark hallway. The walls were made of thick metal. Lights flickered on as she moved forward. Her footsteps echoed in the empty space. Next to her walked Chief Engineer Roy Bennett. He carried a small computer that showed green and red lights. He looked at the numbers on his screen and nodded. Ma'am, all the main systems are working, Roy said. The big engines are hot and ready. The magnetic fields are stable. The main gun has been warming up all day. Lisa Carter was a tough woman with short gray hair and serious eyes. She had been in the military for 40 years. She had seen many wars, but she had never used a weapon like this before. What about the crew? She asked. Captain Danny Hughes and his team finished their training last month. They have been sleeping in the ice chambers for 1 week. We can wake them up anytime you want. They stopped in front of a huge metal door. It was so big that 10 people could walk through it side by side. Roy had never seen it open before. Nobody had seen it open for 57 years. Roy, are you sure about this? Carter asked. The Pennsylvania has not fought in a real battle since the old wars between human worlds. Roy looked nervous. Ma'am, the aliens do not know what we can do. They have only seen our peaceful ships. They think we are soft because we like to talk more than fight. Carter put her hand on a special scanner next to the door. The machine read her hand and checked her identity. Red lights turned to green. Motors started to hum. The huge door began to open very slowly. It is time to show the galaxy something they have never seen, Carter said. Time to remind them why humans built ships like this one. As the door opened, Roy's mouth fell open in surprise. He had worked on the Pennsylvania for 20 years, but seeing it always made him feel small and scared. The ship was enormous. It was 8 kilometers long, which meant it would take 2 hours to walk from one end to the other. The hull was made of black metal that seemed to eat light. Weapons stuck out from every surface like the spines of a giant fish, but the most frightening thing about the ship was the front end. There was a huge opening there, perfectly round and dark. It looked like the mouth of a monster that could swallow other ships whole. Begin getting ready for launch, Carter ordered. Her voice was quiet, but Roy could hear the power in it. And Roy, when you wake up Captain Hughes, give him a message. Tell him the galaxy is about to learn why humans do not build normal battleships. We build ship killers. Roy nodded and ran toward the control room. Carter stood alone looking at the Pennsylvania. This ship was humanity's greatest secret. Most humans did not even know it existed. The aliens certainly did not know about it. During the old wars between human colonies, both sides had built terrible weapons. The Pennsylvania was the worst of them all. It had ended the war by destroying an entire enemy fleet in one battle. After that, humans had decided to never fight each other again. Ships like the Pennsylvania were hidden away and forgotten, but not destroyed. Humans never destroyed their weapons completely. They just put them to sleep, waiting for the day they might be needed again. That day had come. Carter walked up a ramp into the ship. Inside, robots were working to get everything ready. They checked systems, loaded supplies, and made sure the engines would work properly. The robots had been taking care of the Pennsylvania for decades, keeping it perfect and ready. She went to the bridge, the room where the captain controlled the ship. It was dark and empty, but soon it would be full of people. The screens were black, but they would light up with information about enemies and weapons. Carter sat in the captain's chair and thought about what was coming. In space, 12,000 alien ships were waiting to attack human worlds. They thought they were so strong that humans would run away in fear. They were wrong. The aliens had made a big mistake. They thought that because humans preferred peace, humans were weak. They thought that because human ships were usually built for trade and exploration, humans could not build warships, but humans had always been good at war. They had just chosen to be peaceful instead. There was a big difference between cannot fight and will not fight. Carter stood up and walked to a window. She could see Earth's blue sky far above. Somewhere, up there, beyond the atmosphere, human families were in danger. Children were scared. Parents were worried. That made Carter angry. Humans would do anything to protect their families. The aliens were about to learn that lesson. A young officer ran onto the bridge. "Admiral, Captain Hughes is awake. The crew is getting ready. We can launch in 6 hours." "Good," Carter said. "Tell the captain to hurry. The aliens gave us 3 days to answer their threat. I want to answer them in 2 days." The officer saluted and ran away. Carter stayed by the window, watching the sky. Soon the Pennsylvania would fly up through that sky and into space. It would travel to the Kepler system, where the alien fleet was waiting. The aliens expected to see a small human ship that would surrender quickly. Instead, they would see something that would give them nightmares for the rest of their lives. Carter smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. The Pennsylvania had been sleeping for 57 years, but it was about to wake up angry. And when the Pennsylvania was angry, entire fleets died. The admiral walked off the bridge to supervise the final preparations. Soon the galaxy would remember why humans were dangerous. Soon, every alien would learn that there was a big difference between humans who chose peace and humans who chose war. The aliens had asked for war. Now they were going to get it. Captain Danny Hughes stood on the bridge of the Pennsylvania. He looked at the big screen that showed space around them. They had just come out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. The enemy fleet was right where the spy report said it would be. "Contacted 27 Mark IV, called navigator Amy Price from her station. She was a young woman with short brown hair and quick eyes. "I count 12,347 individual ships. They range from small fighters to huge battleships." Danny Hughes was a calm man with steady hands and a quiet voice. He had been commanding ships for 15 years, but he had never seen an enemy fleet this big before. The screen showed thousands of dots, each one representing an alien warship. Hughes nodded to his weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Pete Barnes. "What do you think, Pete?" Barnes studied his screens. Numbers and pictures flashed in front of his eyes. He was good at reading enemy formations and finding weak spots. "Standard tripartite formation, sir. The purple Valonian heavy cruisers are on the outside. The crystal Quarathi carriers are in the middle, and those big hegemony command ships are at the center." Hughes understood. The aliens had put their strongest ships on the outside to protect the weaker ones inside. It was a smart formation for defense. But the Pennsylvania was not planning to attack from the outside. "Communications," Hughes called to Ensign Beth Lewis. She was young and nervous, but she was good at her job. "Any word from our people on the planets?" "The evacuation ships finished loading 6 hours ago, sir. All the families and workers are safe. They are far away in hyperspace now." "The colonies are empty." Hughes felt relieved. That was always the human way. Protect the innocent people first, then deal with the enemy. Now he could focus on fighting without worrying about hurting civilians. The Pennsylvania moved slowly toward the alien fleet. On the screen, Hughes could see the enemy ships getting bigger. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. Ship after ship after ship, all pointing their weapons at the lone human vessel. "Sir," Amy Price called out, sounding worried. I am detecting massive energy buildup across the enemy fleet. They are charging their weapons. Hughes was not surprised. The aliens probably thought the humans were crazy for sending just one ship. They wanted to destroy it quickly to show their power. On the main screen, the alien formation began to change. Weapon platforms turned to point at the Pennsylvania. Warning lights flashed on the human ship as computers calculated how many guns were pointed at them. Thousands of weapons, maybe tens of thousands, all ready to fire at one small human ship. Well, Hughes said quietly, sitting down in his command chair. I guess talking time is over. All stations prepare for battle. Pete, start charging the main cannon. Amy, plot a course straight through the middle of their formation. The bridge crew looked at each other. Straight through the middle? That seemed like suicide. But they were human, and humans trusted their captains. If Danny Hughes said to fly through the middle of the enemy fleet, they would do it. Amy Price's fingers moved quickly over her controls. Course plotted, sir. Straight line through the center of their formation. Pete, how is that main cannon coming along? Barnes checked his readings. Charging now, sir. It will take several minutes to reach full power. Hughes nodded. The Pennsylvania's main weapon was not like other ship guns. It needed time to build up energy. But when it fired, it could destroy almost anything. The alien fleet continued to surround them. Hughes could see the individual ships now on the screen. Some looked like metal fish with fins and scales. Others were perfect spheres covered in weapons. A few looked like giant insects with wings and stingers. All of them were pointing their guns at his ship. Sir, Beth Lewis said, her voice shaking a little, we are getting a message from the enemy flagship. Do you want to hear it? Put it through. The bridge filled with an artificial voice speaking human words. It sounded cold and mechanical. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 12,000 to 1. Surrender now and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning. Hughes looked around at his crew. There were 37 people on this bridge. All of them had volunteered for what everyone thought was a suicide mission. But none of them looked scared. They looked angry. The aliens wanted to attack human families. They wanted to destroy human worlds. They thought humans were weak and would give up easily. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Beth, open a channel. Send this message to every ship in the system. Channel open, sir. Hughes stood up. His voice was calm and clear. It carried across the bridge and out into space, reaching 12,000 enemy vessels. This is Captain Danny Hughes of the United Earth Defense Force ship Pennsylvania. You asked for humanity's answer to your ultimatum. Here it is. He paused for a moment, letting his words reach every alien ear. Then he looked at Pete Barnes. Fire the main cannon. The Pennsylvania had been built during the worst war in human history. Back then, humans had fought other humans with terrible weapons. The ship's main gun was called the Magnetic Acceleration Linear Artillery System. The crew called it the Planet Cracker. It had taken 50 years of human engineering to build this weapon. It could punch through any armor. It could destroy any shield. It could crack a planet if it hit the right spot. And now it was pointed at the center of the alien fleet. Barnes pressed the firing button. The universe screamed. A beam of pure energy shot out from the Pennsylvania's main gun. It was so bright that it looked like a white line drawn across space. The beam moved faster than thought, faster than light, faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. The first enemy ship in its path simply disappeared. 1 second it was there. The next second, it was gone. Nothing left but empty space. The second ship exploded like a small sun. The explosion spread out and destroyed 3 more ships nearby. The beam kept going. It punched through ship after ship after ship. Each hit caused more explosions. Each explosion destroyed more vessels. The aliens had put 12,000 ships in a tight formation to show their strength. But that tight formation meant that when one ship exploded, it damaged the ships next to it. And when those ships exploded, they damaged even more ships. It was like dominoes falling down, but with starships and nuclear fire. Hughes watched the tactical display as thousands of red dots disappeared from the screen. The aliens had thought their numbers made them safe. They had thought one human ship could not hurt them. They had been very, very wrong. The Pennsylvania moved through space like a dark arrow cutting through the enemy fleet. All around it, alien ships tried to get out of the way, but they were too slow, and the human ship was too fast. On every alien bridge, commanders watched, in horror as the single human vessel approached their massive fleet. Sub-Admiral Klex of the Valonian Third Fleet pressed his tentacles against his viewing screen. His purple skin had turned pale with fear. "This is impossible," Klex whispered to his crew. "One ship against our entire armada. Either they are completely insane, or we have made a terrible mistake." He was about to find out which one it was. On the Pennsylvania, Chief Science Officer Brandon Cole watched his instruments with growing excitement. The numbers on his screens were climbing higher and higher. Energy readings that should have been impossible were becoming real. "Sir," Cole reported to Captain Hughes, his voice tight with focus. "Main cannon at 80% charge. All other systems are working perfectly. The magnetic field is holding steady." Hughes studied the tactical display in front of him. The enemy fleet was closing in around his ship like a giant fist. Thousands of alien vessels were moving into position to attack, but that was exactly what he wanted them to do. "Amy, how long until we reach the best firing position?" Navigator Amy Price checked her calculations twice to make sure they were right. 30 seconds at our current speed, sir." The Pennsylvania flew deeper into the enemy formation. Alien ships were everywhere now. Above, below, to the left, to the right. The human ship was surrounded by vessels that wanted to destroy it. "Sir?" Communications Officer Beth Lewis said, her voice shaking slightly. "We are getting another transmission from the enemy flagship. They want us to surrender." "Put it through the speakers." The bridge filled with the mechanical voice of a Korathi translator. The crystal being spoke in musical tones that had to be changed into human words. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered 12,000 to 1. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning." Hughes looked around at his crew. 37 men and women sat at their stations. They all knew that most people thought this was a suicide mission. They all knew the odds against them. But none of them looked afraid. They looked ready. Hughes had served with many of these people for years. He knew their families. He knew their children. He knew they were fighting not just for themselves, but for every human in the galaxy. "Beth, open a channel. Send this to every ship in the system." "Channel open, sir." Hughes stood up slowly. His voice was calm and strong. It carried across the bridge and out to 12,000 enemy vessels listening in space. "This is Captain Danny Hughes of the United Earth Defense Force ship Pennsylvania. You demanded humanity's response to your ultimatum. Here it is." He paused, letting his words travel to every alien ear in the system. Then he looked directly at Pete Barnes at the weapons station. "Fire." The Pennsylvania's main cannon had been humanity's greatest secret for over 50 years. The weapon was officially called the Magnetic Acceleration Linear Artillery System, but the people who built it called it something else. They called it the Planet Cracker. The weapon worked by using magnetic fields to accelerate particles to incredible speeds. Then it focused those particles into a beam of pure energy. The beam was so powerful it could punch through any armor ever made. It was so hot it could melt through solid rock. It was so destructive it could crack a planet if it hit the right place. And it was all aimed at the center of the alien fleet. Pete Barnes pressed the firing button. The universe screamed. A brilliant white beam shot out from the Pennsylvania's nose. It was so bright that it hurt to look at, even through the filtered screens on the bridge. The beam moved faster than light itself, reaching across space in an instant. The first alien ship in the beam's path was a Valonian heavy cruiser. It was 3 kilometers long and covered in thick armor. It had shields that could stop nuclear weapons. It had fought in 100 battles and never been destroyed. It lasted exactly 1 second against the Pennsylvania's main gun. The cruiser simply vanished. One moment it was there, a massive warship with 2,000 crew members. The next moment there was nothing but empty space and a few glowing particles. The beam continued through the fleet. The second ship it hit was a Korathi carrier, a crystal vessel that sparkled like a jewel. The beam struck it dead center, The entire ship exploded in a fireball that could be seen from planets away. But the explosion did more than just destroy one ship. The Quarathi had packed their vessels close together for protection. When the carrier exploded, burning fragments flew out in all directions. Those fragments hit 3 more ships, causing them to explode as well. The Pennsylvania's beam kept going. Each ship it hit directly was completely destroyed. Each ship that exploded took more ships with it. The aliens had thought their tight formation would protect them. Instead, it made them more vulnerable. Chief Science Officer Cole watched his instruments in amazement. "Sir, we have direct hits on the enemy flagship. The beam is continuing through their formation. I am reading massive explosions throughout their fleet." On the main screen, Hughes could see the destruction spreading. Ships exploded like fireworks. Debris flew everywhere. The perfect alien formation was falling apart like a house of cards. Sub-Admiral Klex pressed his face against his viewing screen. Half of his fleet was gone, just gone. Ships that had taken decades to build were destroyed in seconds. Crews that had trained for years were dead. "All ships, emergency scatter," he screamed into his communicator. "Get away from the human vessel, it is not what we thought." But it was too late. The Pennsylvania's beam had cut completely through the center of the alien formation. Explosions continued to spread outward like ripples in a pond. Ship after ship after ship was destroyed. Hughes watched the tactical display as thousands of red dots vanished from the screen. Each dot had been an enemy vessel. Each vessel had carried hundreds or thousands of alien crew members. In less than a minute, the Pennsylvania had destroyed more ships than some entire wars. "Damage report." Hughes called to Chief Engineer Lily. "Thompson. Main cannon cycling back to standby mode, sir. Some minor heating in the magnetic coils, but everything is working fine. We could fire again in about 4 hours if we need to." Hughes nodded. 4 hours. That meant if any aliens wanted to continue the fight, they would have to do it soon, or wait 4 hours and face the planet cracker again. He did not think they would wait. On his screen, the surviving alien ships were moving away from the Pennsylvania as fast as they could. They had come to fight what they thought was a weak human trading vessel. Instead, they had found a monster. "Sir," Amy Price reported, "enemy ships are breaking formation. It looks like they are getting ready to jump to hyperspace." Hughes allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Beth, patch me through to the Galactic Council emergency frequency. Channel open, sir. This message goes to all Tripartite Alliance vessels and anyone else listening. You can see that humanity has delivered our response to your ultimatum. The Kepler system remains under human protection. Any ship that tries to attack human colonies will be considered an enemy." He paused, making sure his words would be remembered. For those wondering why Earth sent only one ship, the answer is simple. One ship was all we needed. Space was quiet now. The battle was over. Where 12,000 alien ships had been arranged in perfect formation, now there were only pieces of metal floating in the darkness. Broken ships drifted slowly through space, their lights flickering and dying. The survivors hung motionless, their crews too shocked to move. Captain Danny Hughes stood on the bridge of the Pennsylvania watching the tactical display. Of the 12,000 ships that had threatened to destroy human colonies, fewer than 6,000 were still able to fight. The rest were destroyed, or so damaged they could barely fly. "Damage report," Hughes said to Chief Engineer Lily Thompson. Thompson checked her instruments carefully. "Main cannon is cooling down and returning to sleep mode. Some minor overheating in the magnetic coils, but all systems are working fine. We could fire again in approximately 4 hours if needed." Hughes nodded. The Pennsylvania had done its job. The aliens had learned their lesson. Now it was time to make sure they understood the message completely. "Beth, open a channel to the Galactic Council emergency frequency." Communications Officer Beth Lewis pressed buttons on her control panel. "Channel open, sir." Hughes looked out at the broken alien fleet through his view screen. Then he spoke clearly and calmly. "This is the Pennsylvania to all Tripartite Alliance vessels and anyone else listening. As you can see, humanity has delivered our response to your ultimatum. The Kepler system remains under human protection. Any vessel that tries to approach human colonies without permission will be considered hostile. He paused, letting his words travel across space to every surviving alien ship and to the Galactic Council chambers far away. For those wondering why Earth dispatched only one ship, the answer is simple. One ship was all we needed. The Pennsylvania will remain here for the next 3 days. After that, we're going home. I suggest you do the same. As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Commander Pete Barnes looked up from his weapons station. Sir, the enemy fleet is breaking apart. Looks like they are preparing to jump to hyperspace and leave. Hughes allowed himself a small smile. Stand down from battle alert, but keep all systems ready. Amy, plot a course for Earth. We will follow them out after our patrol period ends. On the alien flagship, Sub-Admiral Klex of the Valonian 3rd, Fleet stood in his damaged command center. Half of his instruments were broken. Many of his crew were injured. His beautiful purple skin was pale with shock. Send a message to the Tripartite Council, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them the human fleet is much stronger than we thought. Tell them we need to rethink our expansion plans. The communications officer, a young Valonian with trembling tentacles, looked confused. Sir, should I mention that we were defeated by just one human ship? Klex was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed, a sound like air leaking from a balloon. Yes. Tell them the truth. Tell them that one human ship destroyed half of our combined fleet. Tell them that we have made a terrible mistake about these humans. 3 days later, the Pennsylvania kept its word. The human ship turned away from the Kepler system and jumped to hyperspace, heading home to Earth. The surviving alien vessels had already fled, running back to their home worlds with news of their defeat. In the Galactic Council chamber on the neutral world of Harmony Station, an emergency session was taking place. Representatives from dozens of species sat around the great crystal table, but the mood was very different from the meeting 3 days earlier. Ambassador Zekthara of the Valonian Empire stood to address the council. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like fear. The question before us today is whether humanity's actions were an act of aggression or legitimate self-defense. Ambassador Creton of the peaceful Althari rose gracefully. She had been one of the few aliens who had not laughed when Commander Morrison said humans would send one ship. With respect to my colleague, I believe the question has already been answered. Humanity was threatened with the destruction of civilian colonies. They responded with precision and restraint. They could have destroyed our entire fleet, but they only disabled the ships necessary to end the threat. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many aliens were realizing that the Pennsylvania could have killed everyone in the tripartite fleet if it had wanted to. Instead, it had only destroyed the ships that posed the greatest threat. Commander Jake Morrison stood up slowly in the human delegation section. The Pennsylvania has returned to Earth and resumed its previous status. Humanity has no desire for conquest or expansion beyond our current territories. However, let this serve as notice to the galaxy. We will defend what is ours. Morrison looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of alien ambassadors. Humanity prefers peace, but we have never been afraid of war, the choice of which, one you receive from us, has always been yours to make. As Morrison sat down, the chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, High Chancellor Vorth of the crystalline Korathi activated his translator. His musical voice was sad and thoughtful. Perhaps it would be wise to reconsider our expansion plans. The Kepler system appears to be adequately defended. The motion to withdraw all tripartite alliance claims on human territory passed without a single opposing vote. Even the most aggressive alien species voted to leave humans alone. Later that day, in a private message to Earth Command, Morrison added a personal note. Mission accomplished. The galaxy now understands that humanity does not need a large fleet to defend itself. We just need the right ship, with the right crew, in the right place. The Pennsylvania proved today that sometimes one ship is exactly enough. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the deep underground hangar where the Pennsylvania had returned. The great ship sat silently in its berth, its black hull reflecting the dim lights. Captain Hughes and his crew were already back. in their normal lives, but the ship would stay ready, just in case. Carter walked up to the ship and placed her hand on its cold metal hull. "Thank you, old friend," she whispered. "Sleep well. Hopefully we will not need you again for a long time. But if they did need the Pennsylvania again, it would be ready, because that was the human way. Humans preferred peace, but they always prepared for war. They built weapons so terrible that no one wanted to fight them. They trained soldiers so skilled that enemies would rather surrender than face them. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans who chose peace were not the same as humans who could not fight. There was a big difference between will not and cannot. The aliens had found out that difference the hard way. Across the galaxy, in alien military academies and war colleges, new classes were being taught. Young alien officers learned about something called human military doctrine. They learned that humans did not build large fleets of small ships like other species did. Instead, humans built a few ships that could destroy entire fleets. They learned that humans did not like to fight, but when they did fight, they fought to win completely and quickly. They learned that underestimating humans was the fastest way to lose a war, and they learned that when humans said, "One ship is enough," they meant it. The Pennsylvania went back to sleep deep under the mountain on Earth, but its legend spread throughout the galaxy. Every alien child would grow up hearing stories about the human ship that destroyed 12,000 vessels with a single shot. Some aliens called it a monster, others called it a miracle of engineering, but they all called it the same thing when they spoke in whispers. They called it the ship that taught the galaxy to respect humanity. And they were right.